Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 186, the Best of Healthy Needs episodes. Welcome back to this month where we are counting down the top 4 or 5 episodes that you have decided helped you the most, according to the most popular topics. Last week we covered self-confidence, and so if you missed that one, be sure to download it and listen. And this week we're on to a very important yet, I think, less talked about topic, which is healthy needs and why it matters to define them, own them, and figure out healthier ways to get them met. So the first one, and probably the most downloaded one, is episode 006, Defining Needs. Now, it may sound crazy, but a lot of people don't even know what they need because they've spent so much of their life denying what they need. So they become so disconnected from what is real and true for them. So the first thing to work on for many of my clients is to identify what basic physical, emotional, social, and psychological needs are, why they need them, and then begin to find healthy ways to get them met. This is often, I think, one of the first ways we find our way back to ourselves. It is said that you can't have true ownership of yourself and good self-esteem if you are not in touch with and owning both your feelings and what you need. So here is a short clip from episode 006. So for this episode, I do want to hone in a little bit more on the emotional and psychological needs, or as Maslow called them, the growth needs. And I just want to reaffirm that, like the belongingness needs, we need that healthy mirroring. We need to feel loved. We need to feel needed. We really need to be seen for who we are as an individual. And I've talked about this before. For what you think, feel, need, choose, believe, that's individually about you and that's okay. You also need to feel like you matter, that you belong somewhere, and that you have acceptance, unconditional love. Not that people don't set boundaries with you, but the love is not conditional. That is so important. Guys, that's why support groups, if they're done right, work. That's what therapy tries to do in the therapy hour, hopefully, where you don't feel judged. There's acceptance and there's love and there's consistency to help you feel safe. That's why 12-step groups work really well, because I think they meet a lot of these needs on Maslow's hierarchy and they do it well, which is why 12-step keeps working and working well for people. When you think about it, these are the needs that those folks entering those rooms did not get at the family dinner table. I personally don't think that we will do this work until we are safe, until there's a place where we feel accepted and held accountable, but not judged for where we are in the process. That is so important. So that was one of the first episodes we did about defining what needs are, and it's so important to, I think, become acquainted with all the needs you may not even thought about, or maybe reacquainted. Because for a lot of people, they can get themselves typically into relationships or situations where their needs are not being met, but it's such a gradual decline that they may not notice it. So next up is almost, I think, a companion episode to this last one, and that is episode 007, Unmet Needs and Why They Matter. Because we are continuing the conversation about how when we don't have needs met in healthy ways, what can manifest in our life, especially in our behavior. So I think it's really important to remember that we're going to get needs met, I think, either in healthy, appropriate ways or unhealthy ways by acting out, by hurting ourselves, by hurting our relationships. The needs are there. We're going to get them met. We just want to get them met in ways that are good for us and for those who have to live with us and be around us. So without further ado, here's a brief clip of unmet needs and why they matter. But let's get into unmet needs, like what happens when they're not met, how that goes down, and why it matters. And remember, unmet needs are human givens. You and everyone else have the same needs. Not wants, needs. And it's not about deserving them. They just are. Kind of like you need to breathe. So how do we start to what I call disown what we need? But how does this happen, right? I mean, who gets out of bed in the morning and says, I want to disown everything? Now, of course, most of us were probably loved and given basic needs like fed and clothed and taught and housed. But I'm not really getting into all of that today. I mean, of course, again, if you suffer from severe neglect, I think that takes some deep work and not by yourself. And I encourage you to seek some therapy or support around that because, again, the rule of thumb is the deeper the neglect, the deeper the wound, the more healing you're going to need and the more intensive healing. I think there's graduated levels of healing. Like if you break your leg, you're horizontal for a while. People have to bring you everything. You can't do anything for yourself. But eventually, you're in a cast. You're on crutches. Maybe you can hobble around. You can't carry anything. But then eventually, weeks later, you're in an ugly boot, and you can carry something. And so think of this as proportionate to the degree of wounding. So I want to get into the emotional and psychological needs today. These are a little trickier, of course. They're not as cut and dry. And if we interviewed your parents today, I'm sure they would deny ever consciously denouncing what you needed, right? Here's an example to show you what we mean here. Somehow you may have received the message that it's not okay to be an individual in the family. If you got the message, either overtly or in subtle ways, that the family just couldn't honor that. Now, this could come in insidious ways, such as your parents never asking your opinion about anything. Instead, they told you, quote unquote, kind of what to think or feel or believe. Maybe the one or two times you tried to have a different perspective, you received negative feedback, people got upset, they shut down, they left the table. It didn't go well. It can be as seemingly benign as hearing these words, "Oh no, honey, there's no reason to be upset, it's okay." Or what do you really need more clothes for? Don't you have enough? I mean, look in your closet. Or that's ridiculous. That's not true. You're too sensitive. All we have to hear is this a couple of times to say, okay, I guess I really shouldn't trust. Or rather, I need to disown what I need. When they try to convince us that, well, you wouldn't want to do that, right? Because this might happen. In the end, it tells you not to trust what you think, what you feel, or maybe even just what you want. Maybe you just want some ice cream, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a mantra I want you to hold on to. There's nothing crazy about me for wanting X. There's nothing wrong with that. This is really important to understand because this is a very common way families communicate. Yet the damage can be so far-reaching without anyone even realizing it. So yes, a large part of the healing around unmet needs begins with grieving. Grieving what you did not get and needed to get, and how it hurt you and how it has impacted your life since. Be sure to check this week's newsletter for the bonus download to this episode, the unmet needs exercise. You can take the work even deeper. Since this podcast is all about taking responsibility, then owning our needs is a big part of that too. This next episode, 009, Taking Responsibility for Getting Needs Met, gets into what I think is the essence of owning and honoring what we need. It's so important to not only identify what we need, to understand maybe from past trauma or emotional neglect growing up, but then today as grown-ups to really take responsibility for getting our needs met. And some of the work that's involved in this is first teasing out what needs must be met by others. For example, belongingness, maybe appreciation, acknowledgement, learning and growing. A lot of those things we need to have within relationship with other people. But there are also needs that we're supposed to meet for ourselves. So a lot of people grew up not even knowing how the hell to do this or even what is what. So it is important to get some love and support and some education around this so that you can determine, are you putting some of your needs on someone else? Like, are you looking to someone else to make you feel okay as a person instead of doing some soul-searching work and some difficult work in your day-to-day to honor yourself, to get your needs met? Maybe to feel loved, maybe to be proud of yourself. So taking responsibility, taking ownership of our needs is a really important step going forward. The people who have the healthiest relationships, I think, are people who can do this. And they don't put their needs on someone else. So here is a glimpse into episode 009, Taking Responsibility for Getting Needs Met. Sometimes we need to sit with that and say, what am I doing? Am I really owning how I take care of myself? So again, self-care has a lot to do with discipline, discipline, discipline. It's about really beginning to listen to yourself, because doing that is so healing. By nurturing yourself in this way, by taking that nap, grabbing that quick vacation, taking that long drive, or whatever you feel you need, you are also healing wounds perhaps from long ago. Doing it in the moment today, doing it in the present, in the near future, you're deep down healing the idea that maybe you didn't deserve to have those needs, much less have them met. That is what is so cool. You're making it up to you. You might be healing the recent past, or even earlier today when you didn't take care of yourself. It's okay. I love it that every 5 minutes we get a new chance, and it's all okay. You'll begin to notice that you are feeling better the more you practice this self-care. There's a direct correlation. Oftentimes we don't recognize it until we stop doing it, till we get off course and we haven't worked out this week and we ate really crappy and we didn't connect with anyone because life was blowing up. And you're like, wow, I feel like crap. Well, in other words, I don't think the daily self-care, we may not notice right away how it's helping us, but boy, can we feel it when we stop doing it. So just remember that. Also, staying in scenarios where you cannot get needs met is crazy-making and essentially toxic. Those who work with me are probably sick of hearing me say that. I say that all the time. Environments are everything. And as you continue to grow, you're probably going to become so frustrated that you won't allow yourself to stay much longer anyway, which is a good thing. Like, did you ever go to a really nice hotel or someone's house or another spot where you felt so cared for, nurtured, and respected? Remember how wonderful that felt? Remember how you didn't have to beg, cajole, or fear you wouldn't be honored. It just was. It was just assumed that you deserved that, and it was given freely to you. I encourage my clients all the time to try to grab some moments in places and in relationships with people who really want to respect you. Because just by creating this contrast to your own life or maybe a situation in your life can be really eye-opening and show you what needs to change for you in your regular environments. I mean, you may not be able to pull the trigger, But creating that contrast is a huge piece. When I've worked with people in really abusive relationships over the years, and I got the sense they were just too afraid yet to pull the trigger and walk out of there because it was not going to be easy, that I would just work with them and create contrast. Help them find good things to put in their life on the side, and that would strengthen them. Because you're starting to see how it's really supposed to be. It's not supposed to be toxic. Yeah, there's stress in life, but it's not supposed to be that bad all the time. Okay, so let's talk practicality and ways that we can start working on taking responsibility for what we need. So the first thing is, I want you to work on expressing your needs to yourself first. I know this may sound crazy, but it's not. Journaling, self-talk, talking in the car when no one's there. Talk to yourself, remind yourself, look in the mirror, do the mirror exercise about 5 minutes a day. Look at yourself in the mirror with love, with compassion, and affirm for you that you're not selfish, it's self-care. So there you go. Owning our needs is all about taking responsibility for ourselves and feeling good about getting needs met. Okay, so our final episode today is about needs, is episode 101, Putting Your Voice Out There Vulnerably. Now in this episode, we're not just talking about needs, as you can tell by the title, but just as what we're going to get into in the next 2 weeks, I don't think we can own and express our needs without boundaries and assertiveness. I think all three pieces work together. The big message in this upcoming episode is looking at our needs in our relationships and how to take responsibility for ourselves. How to use our voice appropriately to honor what we need, stand up for what we need, lovingly detach from other people, but still stand in our truth. So here you go. Episode 101, Putting Our Voice Out There. Here's a clip. Another time it's good to speak up is when you need something. Maybe you need advice, some support, actual physical help. Maybe you just need someone to help generate ideas. Maybe some time to hang out. Maybe you need to borrow something. Maybe you need them to step up. Maybe you need for them to show you they are present and that they're listening and that they care. Maybe you need their partnership, if that is your partner or your sibling or your coworker. Maybe you need their respect. So when you need something in a relationship, and that is vulnerability, and it is not courageous to not need. That's cowardice. That's self-protection, and if you feel that way, it's there for a reason, but it does not scream confidence to not need. Not that we put all our needs on others and we don't take care of ourselves, but there are certain things that we have to get from other people that we can't self-supply. That's how you know that. Another time where it's good to use your voice is when you've decided something. Now, this is riskier. Maybe you've changed your mind. So be respectful and tell them because they can't read it. Remember, be so much easier if they could. I know. But they can't. When you need to change the plan. When you need a break. When you need to leave a relationship. When you need to stop lending money or rescue someone. When you need to do good things for yourself that maybe you haven't done in the past. Especially expressing that to people who really struggle to love themselves enough to do self-care, they're going to have a tough time. They're going to have a tough time. If you have a workaholic boss who doesn't have enough self-love to have boundaries around their time, that's risky. So a lot to consider in that. A big obvious time to use your voice is when you need to say no. No to helping them. No to showing up. No to having time. You don't have the energy, you don't have any more money, and no, you don't have a spare room, or at least you don't have one that you're lending out. No to the extra work. Just because someone doesn't step up doesn't mean you have to. Maybe no to the wonderful opportunity you just don't have the time to partake in right now. And finally, the hardest one probably is no to the rescuing. Yes to detaching and allowing other people to deal with their own lives. Another good time to use your voice is when you're being played. When you hear one more "I'm sorry," but no change is happening. Because that's manipulation. When you're talked out of your feelings. When you're being gaslit, that never happened. Instead, you say, "I'm sorry, this isn't working for me." When you can demonstrate some emotional honesty and genuineness, "I'm right here to listen, but I'm not doing this." Well, there you go. Using your voice to honor your truth, to make your insides match your outsides, to honor what you need, and not disown what you need because other people can't handle it. Well, there you have it, the 4 most listened to episodes about what I think is such an important topic, getting our needs met in healthy ways. Or, if not, how that's going to play out in unhealthy ways. Either way, they are as important as breathing, I think, and are not to be ignored. Uncovering our needs and taking action to get them met is a process, so please be patient with yourself. It takes time, self-compassion, some grief work, some crappy days in between, and good, healthy, loving support around us. But I promise you, if you work on, either for the first time or just remembering to get back on track with this, you won't be sorry if you take some time and some effort and work on any unmet needs you might have. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have at least one good takeaway, either something you learned new or were just reminded about. Be sure to check the show notes at unmetpowercast.com. Sign up for the newsletter that comes out each Tuesday. That's where you'll get the bonus downloads from the episodes. If you have not signed up for the newsletter and you would like the bonus download for this week, just hit me up on social or email me. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.